Yeah, so my name's Richard and I run an organisation called the Stay Safe Initiative. We're a community interest company that works directly with young people in schools, and I work with young people on a few topics, one of which, certainly in regards to this conversation and our conversation at Leeds, is working with boys and young men through a programme called Boys to Men. And it's a program that's been designed to help boys and young men think critically about manhood, and more importantly, creating safe spaces for them to discover who they are, who they want to be, and giving them the freedom to think about what kind of men they want to be in today's world. So that's really what I do. I spend most of my time working with young people in schools and other settings, and I love it. It's the best job in the world.
Brilliant. And masculinity, toxic or otherwise, is in the news a lot at the moment. When you talk to these young men, what do they think being a man is in today's world?
Well, first of all, just to pick up on the term that you just used, toxic masculinity is a term that we are constantly being bombarded with. It makes almost every headline that we see at the moment. Any discussion about men, boys, toxic masculinity comes into the picture. I think from a young person's perspective, certainly boys, I don't think it's the most helpful term. And the reason why I say that is it paints a picture with quite a broad brush that, so is it toxic to be a man? Is masculinity in itself toxic or harmful? Which obviously it isn't. There's great displays of masculinity, and it's definitely not toxic to be a man. But it makes it quite confusing for boys. And when I talk to boys in schools, this is always our first conversation. I may be spending a few days with these boys talking about lots of things in connection to their life. And it's always my first question, what do you think it is to be a man? And quite often their response is very stereotypical, as in, well, a real man has to be big, strong, you've got to have huge muscles, a six pack, you've quite often you've got to have a beard that comes into it, body hair. You can't have, you can't show any emotions unless them emotions are anger. Otherwise that will make you look weak. Very archetypal version of what they think a man is, which is quite upsetting to hear, but it gives us a platform to explore it with them a little bit deeper. But yeah, most boys think that is the requirement. You've got to be big, you've got to be strong, you've got to be brave, no emotions. And obviously we tackle all of them with them.
Mm-hmm. Are there role models in the world at the moment that you consider to be good role models for young men? Obviously, we hear a lot in the news about the influence of people like Andrew Tate, about people like Jordan Peterson and the impact, intended or otherwise, that he might be having on young men. Are there people that you think that young men should be looking up to at the moment?
So it's a tricky question. Obviously, when we look at role models, and the title of our panel is "Where Have All the Good Men Gone?" And my answer to that question is they're all around you. They haven't gone anywhere. There are lots of men. There's two of them on screen right now. There's lots of men that can be fantastic role models for boys. And that could be parents bringing children up. It could be professionals that work with young people in educational settings, sports coaches. It could just be every man within their community. There's loads of role models for boys, positive ones, and they spend time around them a lot. The problem is when we look at the online world, those people don't always get the spotlight. There are lots of toxic messages, and I'm using that not in regards to masculinity. There are lots of toxic messages and harmful messages being promoted and directed to boys online certainly through social media platforms. And that makes it quite confusing because they gain traction. And in regards to them kind of role models, there are lots of harmful ones. So when I work with boys, it's about helping them think critically about these messages, looking at them, and giving them the skills and tools to look at these people through a critical lens, because they are bombarded. And quite often they go online looking for positivity. They go online looking for that positive role model. And that's quite often to discover who they are, who they want to be, and who they want to become. And that can be quite a positive opportunity for them. But algorithms, social media algorithms, will quite often then push the more harmful messages to them as well. And for a young person that's trying to work out who they are and where they want to be, this all becomes quite confusing for them. So they are out there, but in many cases they're overshadowed by the more harmful ones that certainly are promoted on the internet.
Yeah, and we've talked about social media. I mean, mainstream media has a role to play, doesn't it? I remember famously the story of Daniel Craig carrying his baby in a papoose, and for some reason that was front page news. That he wasn't the man that James Bond was because he was carrying a baby in a papoose, and it was all sort of clearly ridiculous. But you talked about stereotypes there and the archetypes that young kids think about when they think about being a man. If there was, this is perhaps a slightly silly question, a light question, but if there was a stereotype that you could ban, that you could just sort of strike from the minds of young men, what would it be? Would it be the anger thing? Would it be the being big and strong and having a beard, for example? What would you strike from their minds?
It would be all of that, but I have to be careful, because having a beard, being big and strong, and having all the things that, you know, young boys will say that's would make you a real man, none of them are negative traits. They are all positive traits of masculinity. You can be big, strong and tough and brave and have a big beard, and you can be a genuinely lovely person. So banning things and saying, well, get rid of that obviously is quite difficult. Certainly the harmful messages, the misogynistic messages and opinions that are promoted, if I can click my fingers and make them disappear, that would be great. But I think it's just about giving boys the freedom to actually work out what kind of men they want to be. I think that's what's missing, is there's not enough conversations with boys around what kind of man do you want to be. Obviously, I'm having them conversations with them, and it allows them to think a little bit deeper. And it also allows them to think about, actually, quite often the visual stereotypical traits that they will quite often think are associated with being a real man, that's not actually going to make or break you as a young person or a young man yourself. It's really about what's on the inside. So I spend lots of time talking to boys about their qualities, their values, you know, what makes not a real man, but what makes a good man. And that's when we can start to explore our personal qualities, being respectful, being compassionate, being loving, because they are all themselves, again, great forms of masculinity. So it's about promoting other areas. And I think it's about giving them the confidence that actually, I don't need to follow the archetypal stereotype. I can be soft and sensitive, and I can follow my own interests and passions, but that still makes me a man. And it's about getting these messages to boys.
Yeah.
Because they will become men.
Do you think society's forgiving enough, in a sense, because boys are more likely to be risk takers on average, and they make mistakes, and from those mistakes, you know, we learn and we grow, and that's the idea. Do you think society gives enough room for that to happen? I was thinking of a particular example of a number of tweets that Stormzy sent out, sort of, you know, sort of 15, 20 years ago or something like that, and has changed hugely as a man since. But there was a fight almost to have him cancelled as a result of that. And are we giving boys room to? Are we saying it's okay to make mistakes and then grow and learn from them, or is it sort of like, is it all part of this piece of toxic masculinity? Once you've got into those roles, there's no getting out of them, and you're a negative influence on society, and that's that.
I think that's what they. I think that's the messages that they assume and they hear. I mean, I hear that a lot from boys when I work with them in schools, and when we talk about, you know, issues connected to, you know, terms like toxic masculinity, is they all say we. And when I say we, boys, we are quite often seen as negative. We are quite often seen as a problem. When boys are mentioned, it's usually in a negative light. And that, again, has an impact. And the problem is that impact then pushes them closer to these harmful influences online that are saying the world's against you, no one's got your back, you know, but I understand you, you know, follow me and buy my course and I'll teach you how to be a man. So that's what boys feel. I think that there is a lot of confusion and there is a lot of concern about boys. I mean, we know boys are falling behind in all areas of life. They underachieve compared to girls in education. They make up the majority of the homeless, the unemployed. Men's mental health is a huge concern. You know, when we look at statistics surrounding male suicide, that is, unfortunately, and when I heard this statistic many years ago, I just couldn't believe it. You know, if you are a man in today's world, the biggest risk to your life today is you taking your own life. More men will die of suicide this year than any other cause. So they are feeling a little bit lost, and the messages that we see online reinforces that. So I think we need to take a step back and give boys and young men the freedom to explore who they are. And also, as you mentioned, you know, being cancelled for something you did 5 or 10 years ago, you know, the online world especially is really an unforgiving place for young people. In fact, all of us. And obviously lots of young people I work with, they have an online life. And it's about helping them to understand that, you know, you're not going to be, I'm not, and the people around them, you're not going to be held responsible for what you do today. It's all about encouraging them to grow. And it's all about giving them a safe space to understand that actually you're not bad. You are great. The world do need you. And we're here to support you. And I think if they had that more of them conversations, I think it would help.
Great stuff. And okay, finally then, if I could ask you about the Leeds International Festival of Ideas, and here if I could get you to mention the name of the festival in your answer, if that's okay. Why was it that you wanted to be involved? What attracted you to the festival?
So first of all, I'm going to be completely honest, I hadn't heard of the festival before. But when I was contacted, being invited to join the Leeds Festival of Ideas, it was a huge honour. This is a great opportunity to address this topic. It's obviously it is a hot topic at the moment. It's a great opportunity to have some balanced conversations about it, and it's also a great opportunity for the audience to again have a balanced view and hopefully come away feeling a little bit more confident and positive about boys in their life. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of parents and carers in the audience as well. And hopefully they will go away with a little bit of guidance and support. And I feel a little bit more confidence talking to the boys in my life. And I feel in a better place to support them. So I think it's a really positive opportunity. And yeah, I can't wait to be a part of it.